Hey, hello everyone. This is Gray over at Wakizashi's Teahouse. I'm joined by the Star Trek Encyclopedia, Nerdporeal Lifeform. How are you doing, Nerdporeal?
I just
I'm doing great, mate. And Happy New Year. I meant to say Happy New Year. Can you believe it? 2025.
2025. It would be 50 years since Bohemian Rhapsody came out. 50 years since a whole bunch of movies and a whole bunch of songs came out. So yeah, TV shows. Yeah, what came out in 75? Not Star Trek. Well, I think the
My
animated show
goodness.
was ending around that time. So yeah, whole show is 50 years old
1975.
now. So
Like I was 2 years old in 1975. So I
I
don't know the first time I saw this episode, but it must have been, of course, the reruns on the BBC.
yeah, I wasn't even born in 1975. My parents didn't even meet yet. So yeah,
Oh
that, that
God.
that's that's how yeah.
No, I feel old.
I wasn't born
Yeah.
until the year Ghostbusters came out and Star Trek 3 came out. So yeah, I'm a young man here. I'm a
Oh,
young man.
great. We got David Glenn, by the way, in the chat, just shouting out, "You're on before DJ Ronnie G. Has the whole world been turned upside down?" I
Well,
know, I
apes
think
haven't
so.
taken over, so I don't think the world's been turned upside down yet.
We're still here, aren't we?
Yes, we
Nerdporeal.
are.
Everything's, yeah, just about. We survived the turn of this, let's say, century, the turn of the quarter century.
I
Crazy.
know it's crazy. It's crazy.
Okay, what we're talking about is Star Trek original series episode called "Where No Man Has Gone Before." I like the way they haven't changed that in the title.
Yeah, apparently Sam Peoples, the writer of this episode, likes to claim credit that he came up with it, but it's widely disputed. Some people think Roddenberry came up with it. Roddenberry, of course, would say he came up with it because that's Gene Roddenberry for you, Mr. Roddenberry. So, you okay if I read the press release?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Take it away.
So, yeah, the press releases were always released 3 weeks before the episodes aired. So, this is from August 31st of 1966. Gary Lockwood and Sally Kellerman are guest stars in the story of two spacecraft crew members who are transformed into superior beings following a collision in space on the NBC television network color cast of Star Trek, Thursday, September 22nd. Co-starring regulars in this episode, where no man has gone before, are William Shatner as Captain James Kirk and Leonard Nimoy as Mr. Spock. As the first manned spacecraft to venture beyond the limits of the Earth's galaxy, the USS Enterprise is severely damaged after passing through the totally strange and unfamiliar elements of an outer galaxy. Not until the craft makes its way to a friendly planet for repairs is it revealed that Lieutenant Commander Mitchell and psychiatrist Elizabeth Dehner are possessed of powers of a master race after their exposure to the new atmosphere. They kind of got that wrong a little bit. Mr. Spock becomes convinced that the captain's friend Mitchell and Dr. Dehner, both of whom possess abnormally high ESP ratings and are rapidly mutating into something more than mere human beings, are increasingly becoming a threat to ship and crew. His recommendation to a resistant Kirk: abandon them on a desolate planet and try to escape the danger they present before it is too late. Yep. It's this episode gets pretty dark at the end. Like, even as a kid, I was like, holy crap, Kirk's put into a position I would never want to be in. He
I
has to
know.
murder his friend. He has to kill his friend before his friend becomes powerful again. They zap all the power away, and he has to. That's the only way he has that short window to take him out, and he has to kill him to do it. It's crazy.
What's interesting is this is just from Wiki, so excuse me for that. But the episode, this one was the second pilot. It was produced in 1965 after the first pilot, The Cage, was rejected by NBC. Can you believe that, Nerdporeal?
I can because the network doesn't know what it wants, and the network.
Yeah.
What Here's the thing: they gave them choices. They gave them choices of episodes to do. They Cage was a choice. Another episode, what became Return of the Archons, was another choice, and I think the third one was Omega Glory or something. And it's just like they're like, okay, we don't want that, we don't want that, we want this. The thing is, the Cage didn't have any action. It was a very cerebral episode. It was
Yes, this is
highbrow. It was
true.
too smart, and that was the problem that they had. Because, well, how did Gene Roddenberry pitch the show to NBC? What did he call it? He called it Wagon Train to the
Stars.
Stars. There you go.
Trek.
And they were
it.
expecting, if you watched a Western back then, you had to have some punching. You had to have some, you had to have some action,
Yeah.
And there was no action. Jeffrey Hunter didn't really do anything. He did try to choke a Telosian. Did try to choke.
Oh my goodness.
So.
What's interesting as well, this was the first produced episode of Star Trek to feature William Shatner as Captain James Kirk, James Doohan as Chief Engineer Montgomery Scott, and George Takei, oh my, as Lieutenant Sulu.
Yeah, Kirk. So originally, they changed. So apparently, when Jeffrey Hunter signed a contract to do the Cage, he didn't have to. If the Cage did not go forward with a series, he could escape. He didn't have to. He wasn't bound to do another pilot. He wasn't bound to do the series if he didn't want to. So he decided, you know what? I'm a movie star, and if Salty Traveling Sea is here. I covered The Searchers with him. That was the movie that brought him out. Not brought him out, but that was his big moment. And then, of course, he got even more popular because he played Jesus in the movie King of Kings. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie King of Kings, but he played the Savior himself. He played
Jesus,
Son of God. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just let me shout out in the chat. We've got quite a few people here. It's awesome. We had the Peter Venkman fan site was here. Got Salty Travelling Sea. He's always complaining about the ads. I know. He gets hit every time. Morning Haze. Hello, everyone. David Glenn, looking good. Jalgron 2. He says, Gray looks like a Commodore who will be giving Kirk a hard time as he tries to lead the Enterprise out of a difficult situation.
Yeah,
DJ1AG shouting out, Nerdporeal. And yeah, I think that's everybody caught up. So, what was that? So it was saying, Nurse Chapel over Dr. Crusher. I put that to you, Nerdporeal. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, Nurse Chapel does have the sexier voice. So, and she's of course, Roddenberry was banging the crap out of her. And
oh my God.
What's funny is everybody knew it. Everybody knew it. He was banging her. He was banging Nichelle Nichols. He was banging. And like I said, everybody knew it. he didn't, and he said like his taste. Like another reason why The Cage did not do well, another reason why it was rejected was because they didn't like the fact that there was an exotic green woman, seductive, exotic woman dancing in that episode. If you remember in The Cage,
this is true. Says DJ1AG.
So. Yeah, so that was another reason that they didn't like it, but because of the fact that they were the ones that told them to produce the show, they gave him a second chance. But the thing is, they want more of the action, the more adventure elements. So this was a chance for them to basically complement The Cage, so The Cage could showcase the more cerebral aspect of Star Trek, and then Where No Man's Gone Before can showcase the more action oriented. More high stakes oriented aspect of it. So that's kind of so I think the two mesh pretty well together. And I'll save this. I have an idea. I'll tell you how. Apparently, there's a show called Star Trek Continues. I'll tell you how they kind of came back to this particular episode. And if I would have worked on it, not Vic Mignogna, I probably would have done something more than just what they did, but we'll save that for the end.
Shout out to Fear Monarch who's here. He's saying Troy over Chapel and Crusher together. Yeah. Wow. That's a tough call, says Salty. By the way, with the photos, Nerdporeal, I've tried my best to get a little bit of a, what's the word? Can I say eye candy anymore without getting cancelled? So I love this character in the background. I'm not sure who she is. She's wearing a nice pink top while they play strange chess.
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what she's supposed to be. Like just an entertainer, an employee on the ship. I don't know what she is. She's not a crewman. She's not wearing.
No, she's out of uniform.
It's not regulations. So I'm curious. It's actually really. Wow.
But also,
very
Spock's
nice.
Spock's eyebrows really caught my eye in this episode because, like, right from the start, you focused in on them. They're amazing, aren't they?
Notice, like, I like his eyebrows are a little. I think his eyebrows are at less of an angle, and when they when they went to regular.
I think so.
When they went to series. So I think they were still they were still trying to figure Spock out. One thing I noticed is that his hair does not quite have the bowl look that
it's not a perfect bowl.
Howard bowl look that he does in this. And of course, the other two noticeable things about Spock is he's not wearing blue. He's wearing the same color as Kirk, the yellow, the green yellow or whatever. I don't know what that thing is. And they have the zip. I don't know if it's Velcro or if it's zipper, but they have the collars. They have the collars, and so they still have. I think the Cage had an equivalent uniform like that with the collar. I think, so, kind of, or maybe not quite, but close enough.
Okay. Next one, I had to get a photo of this because I love these old panels with the little yellow lights and red lights on it. So cute. Pushing the buttons. My God.
Yeah, so Scotty here is a lieutenant, according to the armband. So I think a single armband, a solid armband, or whatever you call it, is that's lieutenant. If you have another one that's kind of like slightly smaller, it'd be a lieutenant commander. And if I think you have two of them, it's commander. And I think if you have a third one, you're the captain. I think that's how it is. I'd have to double check, but that's how. So in later shows like TNG, they had the little pins on their collars. That's how you could tell what the rank of the person was. But you had to look at the wrists in this show to find out what the ranks of the people were. So. And yeah, the bright colors was because people were still using black and white TVs and all that, and they were really just getting started with color. So
Salty and Brian, yeah, nice one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to. So what happens is they pick something up, don't they? They pick up a signal and they're going to beam something on board. What the heck is this?
It's basically a flight recorder.
It's not Robbie the Robot, is it?
No, it's not Robbie the Robot. It's basically a flight. It's basically a flight recorder that's sending out like a distress beacon or something like that. And so they go into the databanks. They obviously can tell that something's wrong because it's all burnt and it's damaged it has an exterior damage. So something happened, and they basically think, oh, maybe the ship got destroyed somehow by being out here, because they're all the way on the edge of the galaxy. So what's funny is this is the second pilot, but yet they're further out into the galaxy than they are in the rest of the series. Like they're already at the edge of the galaxy.
Yeah.
And so they go through the barrier later in the episode, but here they find they basically find out that they're trying to figure out what went wrong out here. So it's like a lot of episodes after this usually always start out with an emergency distress call, and of course the captain's log to kind of cover the exposition. So this is the first time you hear a star date and a captain's log, and that was brought to you not by Roddenberry but by the vice president of production. His name was Herbert Solow. He was the vice president of production at Desilu. So Desilu was the studio. Desilu was the studio that basically produced Star Trek with the obviously with the blessing of the network, in this case NBC.
Okay, gotcha. Here in the turbo lift, we probably get our first look at the one of the main characters in this episode. Let's have a look. Who is it? Gary. I don't remember his first name, but
it's Gary Mitchell, played by Gary Lockwood.
That's right, the actor's Gary Lockwood. So you got a double Gary going on with that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I wonder if originally there was no Gary Mitchell. Originally they find a character on a planet that was just named Esper. His name was Esper, and he was about to be like executed by the people on this. This was on an Earth colony. The Enterprise comes, they take him into custody, and they take him into custody, and then all hell breaks loose, and he escapes. But there was no connection. There was no that the great drama of Kirk being friends with the bad guy. Ultimately, you don't really get to see that in the early draft. So they had to rewrite it, or Sam Peoples had to rewrite it, and basically came up with Gary Mitchell, came up with Dr. Dehner. I think I have it all written down here.
I don't know if it's the angle, but he looks bigger, taller than Kirk. And William Shatner's really good looking in this. He's young, but so is Gary Mitchell.
I mean, yeah, Gary Lockwood was only 28 years old. I mean, he's still with us. Him and both him and Shatner are still with us. Him and his co-star in 2001, Keir DeLay, they're still with us too. I mean,
Oh
they're
yeah.
yeah, he's pushing. I think he's going to be pushing 90 pretty soon, in a couple of years. So yeah,
Wow.
she was a model. Now that's Yeoman Smith. That's Andrea Drum, and she only had one line, and she's like, "The name's Smith, sir." And then she was just standing there. I don't think she knew what to do. So Kirk was kind of playing director and pointing her to where she needed to be standing. So he points there, and then she goes and just walks over there.
I think he said something like, "Oh, hey, Crewman Jones," and she's like, "No, it's Smith, sir." So it's a joke on the old Smith and Jones thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's quite cool.
that's what.
But yeah,
That's
she
what.
just stands around looking very pretty. I'll say that.
Yeah, the Star Trek Continues show that Vic Mignogna created. Well, let's just say he brings her character back, obviously with a much different actress. I think her actress she's still with us too. She was only 25, 24, 25, or maybe even younger. Maybe she was only
She
20.
looks very young, yeah.
Yeah.
But, okay, we get our first introduction to another one of the main characters, as well as we've also got Sulu there in the background. Sulu and Scotty. Let me just double check.
Yeah, Sulu's not the helmsman here. I'm sure you've noticed. He is the astrophysicist.
That's right. We've got Sally Kellerman as Dr. Elizabeth Dehner. Is it Dehner? And there's another doctor, but I can't find it here.
That's
what his name is.
That's Dr. Mark. That's Dr. Piper.
Okay, nice one.
So here's the thing is, based on what I've read, based on what I've learned about the history, Roddenberry always wanted DeForest Kelley. They couldn't get DeForest Kelley for the Cage, so they got John Hoyt to play Dr. Boyce. Well, Roddenberry decided to cut Dr. Boyce, and he wanted to bring DeForest Kelley in. The director of this episode, his name is James Goldstone. James Goldstone said, "No, I don't know how he overturned Roddenberry, but he basically said, I want this guy." And he wanted this guy was older. He was like 65 years old. You can kind of tell he's older, and he looks a little tired. And if you watch the episode, he looks very bored. Like he's just standing there, and he's just like, I'm the old man here. I'm surrounded by people 20, at least. Like, I think the next oldest person in this room is Scotty, and Scotty was in his mid 40s. And then you have Paul Fix here. That's the name of the actor. He was 60. He's like 64, 65, and he's bored out of his mind. So he only had a few lines. The most of the scene was eaten by Dr. Dehner and Gary Lockwood and Gary Mitchell, basically.
That's right. Oh, that's
right
interesting.
Here.
Just caught my eye here. You get to see Sally Kellerman naked in MASH. I forgot that she played the original Hot Lips Houlihan in the movie. Yeah.
You see, so yeah, I only know her for two movies. That, and she was in Back to School, where she becomes Rodney Dangerfield's love interest, and there's a point where he's fantasizing during her class, just making love, and he's like, yes. Everyone's like, all the kids are laughing at him. He's like, oh.
Happy New Year, Zach. It's great to see you. We were talking about you before. Is it speak of the devil and summon him up? Is that how it works?
Yeah, I told Zach, I told Gray that I bullied you into inviting me onto your Star Trek stream, basically.
Salty says she's also naked in Serial, 1980. What's going on? How do you know all this? It's unbelievable.
Well, it's Salty. It's Salty.
No, I thought I was
Salty likes that type of stuff. There you go.
Okay, let's have a look. What's next? So we have there's a scene, isn't it, where we got Spock. He's trying to work out what this machine is transmitting. He's trying to work out the message, and it's basically danger. There was a command to possibly self-destruct the ship. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a fragmented log, basically. He's just like, I think the captain's commanding me to destroy my own ship, basically. So one thing that's interesting about Spock, I don't know if you noticed, Spock or Leonard Nimoy, this was still before Spock became the stoic, quiet, gentle Spock that we know of. This Spock is more, like he shouts orders.
He shouts orders a lot in this episode. Yeah, that really caught my ears, you should say.
Yeah, and he also he shouts orders, but he doesn't hide his emotions. He doesn't hide his feelings, especially when he tells Kirk, what has to be done. Like he's willing. I mean, he still has that dispassionate side, but there's still there's a humanity. I liked how like he had a little bit of a humanity that was
Yeah.
like it was set up that that he that he's not human, that he's not capable of irritation, he's not capable of emotions. Well, at the end of the episode pays off. There's a point where he says I feel for him. And we'll get to that, but I really liked how this episode ends. So
Me too. Okay, let's move on. So they this is so strange that the fact that we're at the edge of the galaxy. We're going to leave the galaxy in this episode, and then they fly off into this what turns out to be, what is it, some kind of energy barrier?
yeah, it's like a negative energy barrier. So what I'm thinking was they originally were going to go intergalactic, like they were going to go beyond the galaxy.
Yes,
At this point,
intergalactic, like the Beastie Boys.
But they decided not to do that. And then of course you watch later shows, especially shows like TNG, DS9, Voyager, where the edge of the galaxy is much further away than it was in this show. So there is a little bit of a conflict there, a conflict that I can forgive. So there are conflicts I can forgive from between this era of Trek and of course the TNG 90s era of Trek. What I can't forgive is what they've done with New Trek and how different they made it to the point where you don't even feel like you're not watching the same continuity at all. So
I've only got one word, Brian.
That's a story.
Sorry.
That's a story for another day.
Story for another day, another stream. One word about New Trek.
That's how I felt seeing the section 1 trailer that popped up on my Paramount Plus when I was trying to watch this episode.
How dare it?
I don't even. I sorry. Let's keep going. I don't want.
Nice. These have, you told me this before, but these have been redone, haven't they? I don't know when they were done, but nice little effect of the ship flying off.
For the Blu-ray, 2008. Haze. Yeah, this was for the Blu-ray.
Okay, gotcha.
If you got the Blu-ray, you could watch this version, or you could watch the old version with the original effects.
I'm curious to see the old version, but yeah.
Exploding consoles. Let's just say that became too much of a thing in later shows, and that's how people died. That's how secondary characters died. They would sit at the console, and the console would explode, and they're dead.
So what happens here? They get hit, don't they, with this energy blast, and Dr. Elizabeth Dehner and Gary Mitchell, they both get knocked unconscious, don't they? Well, she doesn't quite go unconscious, but he's out.
They both get zapped. I don't know if they get zapped because they have the high ESP rating.
Ah.
But the ESP rating is how they figure out, they find out that the captain of the Columbus, which is the ship that had the the flight recorder, they find out that they were looking for ESP ratings of the crew, and whoever had the highest were likely to get hit by this negative energy, and it would cause them to shift into something godlike.
Got Jay Goodwin saying Starfleet really needs to invent fuses.
Yes.
DJ Ronnie G agrees. Oh no, overrated.
so much. Yeah, but it wouldn't be nearly as entertaining if they had all these safety features.
So she gets zapped, but she's kind of okay. He gets zapped, and he opens his eyes, and they've gone silver. What the heck's going on here?
They forced the poor actor to wear those silver, those really thick silver lenses. Those lenses.
They were painful, weren't they? Or uncomfortable, probably.
Yeah, so they took a couple layers of lens, and they laminated tin foil.
Oh my goodness!
And these things were hot, and they were thick, and he's like these. Like, get these things off. He'd wear them for like a minute or two. Like, get these fucking things off me. That's how. Yeah. Sally Kellerman did not have as hard of a time. She was able to slip them in and out, and she could keep it in. She could keep it in her eyes for like 5 to 10 minutes. He couldn't last beyond a couple minutes at the most.
Oh, no way!
And he had to do this for 6 days. He had to do this for 6 freaking days. And look,
there's a lot of scenes.
And look, he's reading an ebook. He's reading an ebook.
I know. Look at this. Talk about before its time. Yeah, he's got the advanced version of the Kindle. He's going through it faster and faster.
Yeah, and he recites a fictional book. He recites a fictional passage from a fictional book. So according to the lore of this episode, which I didn't pick up on until literally today, apparently they thought in 1996 that humanity would be off-world on some colony. And so the passage he reads from is basically, it's the author's name is Tar Bold, and he wrote something called some fictional thing for this fictional work called The Nightingale Woman. And yes, 1996, off-world on the
Wow.
yeah. I didn't, I mean, I knew people thought we were going to be in space by the 90s, but I didn't think we'd be already on a colony. We already have a starbase by 1996. So that, I thought that was a little interesting little tidbit to pick up from this. And this was before, Kanuni and Singh and the eugenics wars. Jay, I know you're saying that in the comments. Yeah, this was before that. This was yeah, it's funny what they thought when they were writing the second pilot.
There we go. Sure is. So Kirk comes in to see him because he is, his old friend as well. And at this point, he's kind of okay, isn't he, Gary? He's normal, but he's starting to pick things up. He's sensing things.
Yeah, he's starting. His powers are starting to show. He's able to move things. He doesn't read minds per se, but he can see what other people see. He can. If somebody like envisions something in their head, he can see it too. So, like, for instance, later in the episode, Kelso talks about the the impulse packs. The points are burnt out and they could explode if they ran. So he was able to see that. He
picked up the image from someone's mind, didn't he? Just briefly, because he was thinking about it. Yeah, but here he's like saying, like, I feel great. I want to get back on on duty. Like, put me back to work, Jim. Come on.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's still weak. He's in a weakened state. He says he feels good, but he's still in a weakened state. He felt weak in the beginning when he first opened his silver eyes, and then he feels good, but then when he gets punched, initially, he gets knocked out pretty easily.
He does
until later in the episode where he just keeps getting stronger. And this part was added by the director right here. So they're watching him read at like click, click, page. And then he breaks the fourth wall and he looks at Kirk looking at him. I'm like, does he know that he's being watched? That was the thing that first came in my mind. He's like,
yeah, I thought he did. Yeah.
So I think he did. I think he knew. And yeah.
I just wanted to put this because I love this. What do you call it? It's basically the pulse, the body monitor, isn't it? The Star Trek version. I love this old school one.
Oh yes.
Nerdporeal. How about you?
Yeah, you got what do you got? The white cell count, the blood,
temperature, brain, lungs, cell rate. Yeah, blood, T's and Q's, and he manipulates it with his mind here, doesn't he? He drops. I couldn't tell. Was he dropping the machine's levels, or was he like switching off his body briefly?
He literally switched. I mean, according to the episode, he switched off his body. He was able to manipulate his autonomic functions and play dead.
Yeah,
literally.
And I thought it was a cunning plan to bring her into close contact, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, and then his other friend Lee Kelso shows up. He's like, "Oh, did I walk in? Oh, did I walk in this company?"
Excuse me.
Yeah, exactly. I don't mean to be the third wheel here. I mean, sorry.
Okay.
Hey, there he is, Lee Kelso.
I liked him in the part. I liked him.
You know what's funny? His actor was pissed when he found out that his character was to be slayed.
Oh no! Which was like in a really crazy, goofy scene.
He's like, I wanted to be a part of the show, so that I was just like, damn, bro, you're the first major death. Originally, there was going to be a bigger body count, and originally there was no Delta Vega, so like Gary Mitchell would escape from the ship. So Gary Mitchell would take control of the ship, kind of like the way. Well, I don't know if you've seen if you remember the episode with never mind. That's a later episode. Remember the one with the black and white aliens, you know,
I
and
remember I've
the
seen images of
racism
that.
one.
Yeah,
They take
yeah.
over the ship, you know. He does something similar where he takes over the ship, takes it to a planet so that it could be his Eden with Dehner and all that. But in this show, they go to Delta Vega, which they, of course, they had to reuse in New Trek because they reuse everything that this show came up with,
Just
names
like
and aliens. And sorry,
laughing here, and
I'm still burned. I'm still burned by that stupid
the
Section
older doctor
31.
in the background. How bored does he look here?
Yeah, look, he's got his head on his hand. Look, I was wrong. I'm not kidding. It's
He's like, what am I doing here?
and he's just like this. He's just like,
That's classic. We've got Jay Goodwin saying, when your crewman is hit with an unknown space energy and suddenly talks about how good they feel, you need to worry. It's a lesson Starfleet never quite seems to learn.
yeah, not quite. No.
Okay, what are we next one?
Kelso reminds me of the Trip type.
I hate the Frank Gorshin episode. The Riddler played a part in Batman 66's Riddler actor played a part in Star Trek.
That's the one I'm talking about. The
Is that the
racism
one?
They're like, yeah, Sky's just like, they are disgusting. Mr. Spock, they are disgusting. Yeah, but it was very heavy-handed. So
okay, so what's going on here? They're planning to possibly take Gary down to, I don't even know what it is. Is it a planet? Is it a planet? It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a planet. It has a lithium. This is when they had lithium crystals. So they had what they call a lithium cracking station. And this was their way of basically, they were able to do their repairs. There was a facility that basically had all the materials that they needed to do repairs. That's right. Usually ships would resupply once in a while. So anyone that was out here, could just drop by there, grab some stuff, and then leave. And of course, obviously make the report, and then it would be the facility would be resupplied. So, but yeah, it was totally automated. Nobody would be there.
Delta Vega remastered and enhanced. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Ronnie.
Yeah, and Kirk wasn't running away from a big giant dragon creature like he was in Trek 2009. Sorry. On Delta Vega.
Really? Did they use the same location, but of course changed it? No way.
Well, they used the name because, hey, everybody, remember Delta Vega? Member Berry.
So what's happening here, Nerdporeal? Do you remember this scene? They're trying to sedate Gary, aren't they? Because he's exhibiting really stronger and stronger powers.
Yeah, I mean, he figured out what their intentions were. So so they're already talking about like his abilities. So he's already playing around with the ship's instruments. He's been doing this. He basically used telekinesis to get himself a cup of water, and he's like, I know what you're gonna do to me, Jim. And he's like, I can't let you. I know we're on Delta Vega. I know what you're intending to do with me. And he's like, what would you have me do? He's like, well, what Mr. Spock is thinking now, kill me while you can. And he smiles when he says it.
That's right, Spock, showing his lack of emotion even at that time. He's like, Captain, we have to kill him, I think, or we have to take him and abandon him.
Yeah, and then he uses his Sith powers. He has some Sith powers. He has lightning. He has Emperor Palpatine lightning. That he shocks Kirk, he shocks Spock, and then they manage to punch him, knock him out, and Dehner's able to sedate him. And I think it's actually in this next scene when he comes out of the sedation. He literally says, "You fools! I'll crush you like insects." And
like insects.
They knock him out again. And they're like, "Why would you say that?" He's like, "I was drugged, bro. You guys drugged me. I wasn't myself." Yeah, bull.
So they managed to get him on the transporters, and they beam down. Here it is, the fantastic looking. This is the original painting, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, and I think they kept it. I mean, I think they updated. They gave it some twinkles, so you could see some lights, twinkling in the background and all that. Yeah, they did add some stuff to it, but yeah, or they actually reused this particular painting in the Dagger of the Mind, which we already did. We covered Dagger of the Mind. When the remasters came out, they redesigned anything that was reused, any paintings that were reused. They basically recreated like the Dagger of the Mind penal colony. They recreated that. That was originally they used this again. So
cool. Okay, here we go. So they have him locked up in a force field cage, don't they? Well,
yeah. You got the look at it. Look at this. Look at those silver eyes from that distance. Look at it. It's
looks pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
The Doctor's still pissed off the old guy.
He's just like, why am I here? Like, he's like, I like the director, but I hate the rest of you. Well, I don't even know. I don't know if anybody knows. I'm sure he was professional when he did this, but he's just like, I'm bored. I don't get this science fiction thing. What is this? Am I in space? I'm a doctor. Why am I wearing blue? Why?
When did the cowboys and the wagon trains show up?
Put me back into a Western. I want to be in a Western again. I want to drink and be back in a Western. Now that's what Paul Fix is thinking right now.
So here, just briefly for a moment, I think, does he try to like break down the shield, the door, and he gets zapped and he's knocked back and his eyes go back to normal, to normal.
Yeah, he sticks his head into the force field, and then it gets to a point where it's too much for him, and he gets pushed back, and then Gary Lockwood awakens from this acting, and he's like, "Oh yeah, wait, I better hurry up. I gotta go off to England to do 2001: A Space Odyssey." Because he got that role before he got
with Kubrick, Stanley Kubrick.
He actually got that role before this one, and he was scheduled. They managed to make it work. So they shot this in early '65. 2001 was shot in late '65. So they were able to work this out to his benefit schedule wise. So, but he's just thinking right now. He's like, I need to hurry up and get this show done so I can go to 2001. And then that's where I die. I get crushed by a rock here, but in that movie, I get die of asphyxiation. I get left off into the universe, or left off into the solar system to drift away dead. Gary Lockwood does not get. He dies in both of those things.
If he thinks those contacts are painful, wait till he works with Kubrick.
Yeah.
By the way, Nerdporeal, I want to shout out.
Yeah, Kubrick's making him run around the.
I remember it.
Yeah,
it's a great scene as well. I had to get this photo because I wanted to see Spark with his. Is it? I'll say it's not pulse rifle. Is it phaser?
It's a phaser. Rifle. It's the only appearance of the phaser rifle in this show, and look how corny and awesome it looks.
It's corny and awesome at the same time. It almost looks like he's got a lightsaber at his belt as well, hanging down.
Yeah, that does look like a lightsaber. Yeah, you're right. That's
crazy. That is cool.
Maybe it's the same prop that was the thing, the one with the points that Mitchell pointed out to Lee. You know, the impulse, the starboard packs.
Here we go. One of my favorite scenes in the episode, and I feel really bad for this character.
Yeah. So this originally was on the Enterprise, the scene, and Mitchell killed multiple people. He didn't just kill Kelso. So the reason why he offs Kelso now is because Kelso, if anything happens, if Mitchell gets away, Kelso is ordered to blow himself up and the base up.
So somehow Gary, using the power of his mind, his ESP abilities now, he gets these cables to strangle the poor officer. It's like, my God,
yeah,
it's a great scene.
And they were very strict. So the ratings,
Kelso.
Yeah, the ratings, the network was concerned. They didn't want to show excessive death, or they didn't want to show him die. So they faded out to you see Mitchell's face again, and you don't really see the death. You just see the initiation of the strangulation, and he's down. I don't know I think they do show him briefly go limp. So I don't know.
Yeah, I just got that one shot. This is why OSHA no longer lets you have cables just laying around the work site.
No, you got to have them tied and routed a particular way.
Oh, okay.
Jose Tyler, it had, I could have liked New Trek. New Trek could have redeemed itself had they tried to been faithful to the cage and to the characters that were in the cage, but they decided not to be. So, I mean, they just shot themselves in the foot. I mean, they had a good idea. I know some people like it, but they had a good idea, and they decided not to be faithful to the original episode. And I think Jose Tyler and Dr. Boyce and a bunch of other characters, you know, I mean, they should have been in that show.
So here we finally get to see Sally Kellerman, the actress. She has her contacts in too. They're both silver-eyed. They're about to go outside, aren't they, and create their own Eden, kind of.
Yeah. So right after he offs Kelso, he gets too powerful for the force field. And he zaps. He uses Sith lightning to zap Kirk and Spock again, but this time powerful enough to knock their asses out. And then she's just standing there. You see the back of her head, and she walks slowly, and he gestures her. He's just like, he's moving very gracefully. He waves his hand, and then the force field goes off. He gestures her in, you know, gently guides her to the mirror, and then you see the silver eyes.
See her
silver
eyes
appeared on her final.
Beautiful eyes.
Yes.
I think they really suit her with the nice light blue jersey top and the blonde hair, looking very good.
Yeah, and here's another thing. So you want to? I don't know if you heard about this, Laura, but you see how Mitchell has his chin up like this, and he does it quite a bit in the episode. A lot of people thought that he couldn't see with the lenses. He couldn't see with the lenses at all, so he had to look down under the lens to see where he was, because he couldn't see shit when they were shooting this. And the actor himself said that, but apparently he basically debunked it himself. He says, the reason why I had my chin up was to showcase arrogance and superiority. And I was like, okay. If the actor says that's why I did it, that's why I did it. I mean, how else would you portray a god? Especially one that has human frailties and thinks everybody is, you know, beneath them.
That's a good point, actually. It's a good, even if it's not true, it's yeah. So I kind of missed this scene. I don't know what happened, but they all got hit with something, didn't they? Some kind of shock.
It was lightning. It was a stronger, because Gary Mitchell's power has went up geometrically, as Mr. Sulu stated.
Yeah. So
the lightning earlier, when they were in the sick bay, didn't knock them out because he wasn't strong enough. Here, he is strong enough to knock their asses out, and the next time, you know, he does it, he can kill them probably. And that's kind of what happens to Dehner at the end when we get there. But so Paul Fix actually has something to do, and he actually moves around and is actually, you know, acting, and he's not bored. He's not standing.
Yeah, he looks invested in this scene at last.
And this was the scene I realized that he was the doctor. So when I first watched this episode, when they were in the sick bay, I was waiting for McCoy to turn up. But I was a kid. I was a dumb kid. I was in 7th grade. I was waiting for McCoy to turn up, because this is the first time we see the sick bay early in the series, and I thought McCoy would be in the episode. I was surprised that he wasn't in the episode. That there's this other, who's this guy?
David Glenn was asking that before, you know, where's Bones? But it's very, very early on, isn't it? It's only the second pilot, so episode 3 officially. Yeah,
once Goldstone was out and Roddenberry, you know, Roddenberry's like, Fix, you're gone. DeForest, you available? Yeah, boss. You're in.
Nice one.
And then, you know what, DeForest Kelly, you know, Corbin White Maneuver. Definitely watch that was our first stream that we did, Gray. Corbin White Maneuver.
Yeah. It's a cracking episode.
Totally steals the show in that one. Well, they all steal the show, but McCoy really steals the show in that one. So,
got to say, I do appreciate the set design here in the background. Much higher budget than Doctor Who back in the day. You know,
this was actually was actually a much lower budget than even the Cage. The Cage, because the Cage built the ships, they built all the initial stuff. They repurposed a lot of stuff for this episode.
Okay. I think it looks good. It's great. It's got that lovely 60s kind of kitsch to it.
I love it too. I love the sound that they have. I like the backgrounds. Yeah. The way it was shot. Yeah, look at that. Looks very alien.
It looks awesome, isn't it? The colors, again, like Salty was talking about, the really, really bright colors, so they would stand out on the black and white TV. It's a
I mean,
really good scene.
now it looks like you could tell it's a painting, but when you watched it, like, back in the day on VHS or on old TV, it looked
Oh
like
yeah,
real background, it looked like a real horizon for a second.
without a doubt. Very cool. We've got the rifle again. It's back. It's
Yep, and
back.
he's
Nerdporeal.
climbing the mountain. He's trying to get to
Kirk's
the other
got it.
side.
Again, it's a great scene. It's just it's so Jim.
Oh, you want to see him so Jim when he first encounters Gary, he does a roll. He does a Shatner roll when he didn't really need to. He just
The
needed
Shatner rolls.
he does a
They're
Shatner roll and then he
legendary.
shoots him. I love him trying to appeal to her. He's literally telling her, like, hey, he has human frailties. There's only going to be one of you left. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be you? I mean, is it going to be him? There can only be one God, basically, is what he's trying to say.
That's the way he's trying to reason with her, isn't it? Yeah, it's a clever ploy or clever play by Kirk. Okay, we're almost at the end of the photos. What have we got here? Ah, this is another one great.
Yeah,
scene
this is where he does the roll. He does the roll, and then he's
does
just
the
like,
roll. He shoots him. He blasts him, and it doesn't.
It doesn't work. Doesn't work. So he's not only he's impervious to phaser fire, but he's also, like, his strength is enhanced too. So, like, there's a point where Kirk tries to take him on in that state. He just grabs his hand and flips him over like he's a pillow.
Like a pillow, exactly.
Yeah.
And here, we were talking about this before. Like, he gets Kirk on his knees. He's making him pray to him, isn't he? Pray.
It's like, pray. And he's just like, one jealous God. Pray to both of you. Only one of you will be left in the end. That's kind of where he manages to change her mind, and then she turns on him. And yes, he is way ahead of her because he got hit with the power first, so he's way ahead of her time wise. So when she hits him with the lightning, it just depowers him back to his human state. Whereas when he's doing it to her, because of how much farther ahead he is, his lightning kills her. And plus, the network didn't want any violence to happen to a woman, so they didn't want her to be knocked into they didn't want her to be knocked into a wall or hit in any way, so she just falls like that. Oh,
Great
look,
shot here as well.
ripped shirt.
This is Kirk, isn't it? And there's a great fight scene after the little bit of the lightning battle.
Look at those traps. He made sure to get jacked enough for this episode.
He did, didn't he?
Yep. So he depowers Gary. He tries to fight him, tries to finish him off, and he's about to bash his head in with a rock. This is how dark it gets. Like, can you imagine yourself? Can you imagine you? Let's say Gray becomes Gray gets silver eyes, and he starts his villain arc basically. And the only way to beat him is I have to depower him, and then there's only like a 20-second window for me to kill him, based on
Oh my God!
Yeah, and I have to bash your head with a rock. I mean,
no!
I would lose my soul. I mean, he probably would have lost his soul, so that's why he hesitates. Like, Gary, forgive me, but then he returns back to normal, and then goes back into power mode, and like all the bruises, all the blood is completely gone. It's like he just got all the makeup back on. And yeah, this is where he shoots. So there's a grave made. We didn't see the grave, but there's a grave with a tombstone. It says James R. Kirk. It said James T. Kirk. And so he basically manages to knock him into. I think he picks up a boulder. Mitchell picks up a boulder. Kirk tackles him into the grave.
Yeah.
And climbs out, takes the rifle, shoots the mountain, and then the blast knocks him back into the grave, and then the boulder comes down and smashes him into the grave. And that's how Mitchell dies, basically.
And how about poor Sally, Dr. Dehner?
Yeah, that's what happens when his Sith lightning his force storm is more powerful than her force lightning.
She's still alive at the end, but she's fading and she fades out and she dies and she passes away.
Yeah.
But do we see it actually on screen? It's not really that clear, is it? She's talking and then she just kind of lays down.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember. I don't remember exactly what she says, but she's just like,
I love you, Jim. Oh, no.
Yeah,
she doesn't say that. Then we're back on the ship. Spock and Kirk. And he tells them to put it into the log. You know, they died like in the service of the ship. Yeah, in the line of duty. That's it. That's the words.
Yeah, I loved how this episode ended because, well, there was compassion in both of them.
Yeah.
Because they knew that Mitchell and Dehner didn't ask for what happened to them. Like they didn't go out of their way to become these powerful, espers that would eventually, lose their humanity the more powerful they got. And I mean, he says, just the scene before, he literally says, you're a god. If you're a god, a god above all things needs compassion. And here they show compassion. Even Spock's like, I felt for him too.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And that's it. That's how we end the.
Yeah, and the series was ordered because of the way that this complemented the Cage. A series was ordered. Yeah, James Goldstone directed this.
And Samuel A. Peoples wrote it.
Yep. So Samuel A. Peoples was a good big resource for Roddenberry when it came to science fiction. So he helped Roddenberry quite a bit. And he brought I think he helped, he introduced Roddenberry to a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. The Peter Venkman fan site is saying Kirk was always prepared for some of those events.
Yeah. And I liked, the fact that, Gary was also his friend.
Yes.
Makes it even harder. That's kind of like, can you imagine, having to kill your friend in order to stop your friend from killing other people?
Mm.
You know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of a movie that we covered that you have, I think you still have clips for. Kaneda Tetsuo Akira.
Fantastic movie. Absolutely. Akira. So, Brian, before we wrap things up, what would you say? For me, for such an early episode, I was really impressed by Shatner in this, by Kirk. I thought he was a really good performance, very confident.
Shatner was considered the better actor. Because I listened to the production stuff.
Yeah.
They all thought he was a better actor than Jeffrey Hunter. And
Okay.
he was able. He had a broader range of emotions, and he was able to form a chemistry with Leonard Nimoy, something that Jeffrey Hunter. So Nimoy originally wasn't. Nimoy, if Nimoy wanted to, he could have quit. He could have quit after the first pilot. He wasn't obligated to. He wasn't contracted to be in this episode.
Okay.
Roddenberry basically wrote letters to everyone that was involved in the Cage, saying, "Oh, you did such a great job. I love you. I love you. I want you to come back. We're gonna make this work." He was basically kissing everyone's asses to bring them back to work on this episode from the Cage. Some people came back,
really?
some people didn't. So Nimoy was considering leaving because he wasn't really happy with his performance. He was worried about being typecast.
Mm.
But he visited a friend of his who had to deal with typecasting directly. Remember Vic Morrow? Remember the actor Vic Morrow?
Yes.
The one, I think, wasn't he the one that got killed in the Twilight Zone movie? Like he basically got decapitated. I think that was him. He was the one that got decapitated by the helicopter.
The helicopters, in the Vietnam scene.
Yeah. I think that was the same actor. He went to him, and Vic Morrow told Nimoy to do it. He basically told Nimoy to do it. Nimoy did it. He acted with Kirk, or acted with Shatner. He loved the back and forth, the chemistry, and yes, and then there was a fine chemistry between those two in this one, and of course with Corbomite Maneuver, you had DeForest Kelly in the mix, and then you have gold right there. So this was the beginning. This was the beginning of going into the right direction.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to remember what other details. There was a lot of There was a lot of things I learned from this.
Something here on
So,
Wikipedia I just wanted to shout out. I'm sure you've seen this. Gary Lockwood returned to the role of Gary Mitchell in the 2024 short film 765874
he
Unification.
did. Yes, he
He
did.
used his
That's
godlike
right.
powers to
Did you
help Kirk reunite with Spock in his dying moments.
did you watch that?
Yes, I did on
Okay,
YouTube.
good. All right. It was such. It was. I had a tear. I had a tear at the end of. I had a tear in my eye when I was watching that. It was silent,
No
but
dialogue. It's
yeah,
amazing.
it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was like you see Leonard Nimoy's Spock pass away in the JJ universe, unfortunately, but he reunites with Kirk after Kirk dies in Star Trek Generation. So there was like a reuniting, and it was such a beautiful thing. And you see they brought back Robin Curtis to play an elderly Savick, and she's
Yes.
standing next to what people in the comments said was her son that she had with horny teenage Spock. Because I don't know if you remember in Star Trek 3, horny teenage Spock was going through his first
Oh,
Ponfar,
yeah. Oh my god.
and she basically gave her body to him. And I believe the reason why they left her on Vulcan in Star Trek 4 was because she was pregnant.
Really?
Yeah.
Good grief.
And they never really, I mean, we don't see Savick after that. They originally wanted to bring Savick back for Star Trek 6 where she would betray them.
Mm.
And I think, and I forget who said not to do it. I think Nimoy said no. And
Okay.
they brought Kim Cattrall in to create a new character. And that's Valeris right there. So but yeah, that was great. I mean, and a lot of people in the comments were like, "This is what we want to see, not this bullshit this bullshit Section 31 thing that doesn't represent what Trek is." And no, Salty, sorry to interrupt you, Dre. I've not read it. I have the motion picture novel, I have Wrath of Khan novel in my thing, and I have Search for Spock. So I have those three. I do intend to read them, either read them or listen to them. I haven't decided which yet. I might listen to it. I might actually see how the audiobook is. So
Cool.
but you know that James Doohan named his character in this. So like
No.
they brought him in to read, and they're like, "Well, if you have an engineer, what would the engineer be?" And he did a whole bunch of accents for them. He's like, "An engineer would have to be a Scotsman." And they're like,
Scottish.
"I want to name my." He's like, "I'm going to name my character Montgomery Scott." Okay, I sound more like Chekhov, but Montgomery Scott. So he named his character Scotty, and obviously George Takei always talks about how Gene Roddenberry shared the grand vision of Star Trek, his progressive vision of Star Trek. I'm like, whatever, man, whatever. I don't believe half the stuff that George Takei says, anyways. So he might be true, might not be. But yeah, they managed to film all this in 8 days, and they had to prove to the network that this show, that if they brought this show to series, that could be filmed, on a weekly schedule, basically. And I believe
Okay.
the show did go a couple days late, but they were able to prove more or less that they could do it. So yeah, so I mean, this series is the reason why we got a new series. And by the way, you know who was the cinematographer on this episode? Just this episode. This was the last thing he ever did. And what's funny is nobody knew who he was. He was an old man, 69-year-old man. The director brought him in, and they're like, "Do you have a resume?" He's like, "No, I don't have a resume." "Have you ever worked in television before?" "No." So this man's name was Ernest Haller. He's like, "Oh, what did you do in the past?" I did a little movie called Gone with the Frickin' Wind."
No way.
Yeah. They got the Gone with the Wind cinematographer to do this episode, and he did this. This was the last thing he ever did. He did this a few years before he passed away. Then he retired for good. So they brought him out of retirement to do this episode, and then he retired after this. But they got him.
A little bit of trivia as well. Nerdporeal. This was the first episode to be shown in the United Kingdom by the BBC on July 12th, 1969. So that's the first first time it appeared. No way.
They didn't air this. They didn't air this when it was originally aired in UK. I guess.
No, we were like quite a few years behind you, so that was the first one it was shown, it says. And it was like 1969, so, 4 years later than America.
I heard in Canada I heard that Star Trek actually aired earlier in Canada than even the US.
No way.
That's what I
Wow.
heard. Yeah. I haven't found. I think like the Man Trap, the first episode that aired on BC. I think it aired the day before in Canada. At least that's what somebody told me. I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
But yeah, this
Nice
was the
one.
third episode. This was the third episode aired. So this was September 22nd. So this was first episode that aired was the Man Trap, and then Charlie X, and then this one. I forget why they didn't go with this one right away, the second pilot. But hey, at least they showed it.
No way. Was it the lunar landing? Supposedly Apollo 11. That's what
Yeah, Apollo 11. Yeah, Neil
Jay was
Armstrong,
saying in the
Buzz
chat.
Aldrin.
The
Third
date I was
guy
just
that
saying,
everybody
69.
forgets.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It aired a week before the first moon landing. Okay, nice one. Thanks for that. Thanks for the information. Fascinating. Okay. We're good. Should we wrap things up? Any final comments, Nerdporeal?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely. You look at the box, you see a man and a woman with silver eyes. That just, as a kid, that looked freaking terrifying. I'm like, I have to watch this, and then I watched this. And I learned quite a bit. I learned quite a bit about how a decent person can become a villain. It can start a villain arc, and I'm talking like the way, because kids watch anime so much nowadays. That's how people in the comments are like, "Oh, this person or like is starting their villain arc or something." But yeah, and I personally think, I think any human being with those frailties, no matter how good you might be, and I wouldn't say Gary Mitchell was the best person in the world. He was a bit of a flirt, liked to screw around. I think we're all capable of, doing evil if we're not, if we don't check ourselves and all that. And if we have power like that and where we could do everything we want with no consequence, what's to stop us from? What's to keep us from check? What's the incentive for us to keep checking ourselves? I mean, that's something. That's just something that it's a cautionary tale, and it's a sad one. I mean, Kirk loses his friend at the end, but still manages to show compassion because he understands that this he didn't mean this to happen to him. This was just, he was a victim of circumstance, basically. I mean, yeah.
That was good. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's the second time, well, maybe the third, but I probably first saw this when I was a kid as well. So the third time to watch it, really enjoyed it. Great performances, some nice ideas, as you say, about power, responsibility. Does that sound familiar? And godlike powers.
I mean, you're the comic guy, Stanley. I mean, Spider-Man was already a thing. I mean, wasn't Fantastic Four already a thing? Weren't supervillains in Marvel like already a big thing, like Doctor Doom? Or
well, this was aired in the US in '66, so I'd have to double check. Like, I'm not that much of a historian and comic historian. Like, I'm sure they were already being published, weren't they? Spider-Man, Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
In that date, let's have a look.
I know X-Men was much later. I think X-Men was the 70s, and I forget who made. Yeah.
So yeah, around that time, of course, there was Batman, Superman, Action Comics, Justice League of America, Fantastic Four, Amazing Spider-Man. So yeah, The Flash, Judo Master. I have no idea who that is.
Before there was Brightburn. You ever see Brightburn, the evil Superman? What if Superman was evil?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Before there was Brightburn, there was Gary Mitchell. But
Amazing Stories, issue 15. Okay, so thanks so much for joining me with this, Nerdporeal. Sorry, kind of cutting it a bit short, but we're having, Mrs. W is waiting for lunch. It's lunchtime here. It's 12 noon in Japan.
It's 9 p.m. Central here in Chicago.
Awesome.
So, yeah,
hope you enjoyed our journey.
Yeah. Oh, so is it okay if I plug something really quickly?
Yeah, of course. Just want to shout out the chat. Thank you, chat. Thanks so much for all your comments. It's been great input. It's really good having you, joining us on the journey of Star Trek, where no man has gone before.
Such an awesome thing, and they added the whole the sequence, the dun 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 in the second pilot, and of course, the Space, the Final Frontier started with this. Wasn't in the cage initially, but yeah. So tomorrow there will be a Nerdporeal. and I'm going to be having someone on for the first time. And we're going to be talking retro games, N64 era Quest. So the X account is called Quest 64 Official. Quest 64 is considered one of the worst games of all time.
I remember it. But yet I didn't have it. I remember it.
But yet I love that game because I have a lot of nostalgia for it. And I see this account on X. I'm like, I have to follow this account. And then this account followed me, and then I started DMing him. And yes, I'm assuming it's a him. I sorry, I didn't mean to assume somebody's gender. Could be a totally different thing. But
oh my goodness,
I mean, nowadays you never know. But yeah, we're going to be talking retro games and why that game still pretty bad. It is. I'm playing it now. It's terrible compared to other RPGs. It's an RPG. It was an attempt at an RPG for the N64. So we're going to be talking about that. That's going to be tomorrow. And then week after Nerdporeal, a certain Magitech Max is coming out of retirement to hang out with me, and we're going to drink and we're going to have fun. Sounds
good. That's good. Yeah. One of the best things about YouTube is like bringing people together just to talk about something we enjoy. You get a lot more views and clicks if you're screaming and shouting about hating everything, but I'm just not into that. I'd rather talk about something positive,
or talking about or outrage, or talking about like a friend of mine had said something on X, and because he's Christian, he's concerned about where the video game industry is going, and everybody just dunked on him. And this is people on our side. People just started dunking on him and saying, that he's for censorship, which is not what he was trying to say, but that has nothing to do with this, but that's what's been going on lately. So
okay, you know what we need, Nerdporeal, at the end of this? We need a little bit of Star Trek laughter. So thanks so much, everyone. Good night. Have a great night, great weekend, and don't forget to check out Nerdporeal's Chillporeal tomorrow.